Now, while this may come off as something completely out of the blue, pun intended by the way, I've been wanting to make a series of the Classic's younger brother, Mega Man X, for a very, very long time. Like, I kid you not, the script for this video was ready to go day one, and I am just so excited to just get a move on and talk about the Mega Man X franchise. Back in my early days of this channel, or even when I was writing blog posts on my old WordPress account during the high school days, I've been wanting to make a review of sorts of the Mega Man X Legacy Collection that you can now get for like 30 bucks, less if Capcom's having a good week. And with many people on YouTube talking about their experience with this franchise, I figured we'd get the games on the Nintendo Switch, play them, and experience the nostalgia that these games have given me back as a kid growing up. Mega Man X 1 through 6 specifically, as X7 and X8 I would not experience until the Legacy Collection released back in summer of 2018. My overall experience with the franchise mainly began when my uncle got the Mega Man X collection for the Nintendo GameCube back in 2005, where Mega Man X 1 through X6 were playable with a secret unlockable of a Mega Man racing game as a reward for beating all 6 games of the collection. Thought I figured to throw that random trivia out there in case people in the comments go, "Hey, I remember that!" It was here where I spent most of my days as a 5 to 6 year old kid playing the original SNES trilogy as well as Mega Man X6 surprisingly, but I did spend a majority of my time backseat gaming and just watching my uncle play the games and beating them for me, since I was only just starting kindergarten back in the day and I mainly wanted to play Mario and Sonic games more so than Mega Man X, since they were the easier ones for me to mess around with at the time. It was only later that, when I was more of a young teenager and the Wii was like the only means of me playing video games, that I ever go back to this collection and actually beating some of the games too. I remember beating Mega Man X1, X4, and X6 in particular. But now that I'm an adult with a wallet that's literally begging for mercy every single time I enter the Nintendo eShop, Steam, or even the Epic Game Store, I figured, well, why not let's dive back into what is considered one of my favorite Capcom franchises of all time and one of my favorite platformers of all time, that is the X series as a whole, as sort of like a video marathon for you guys to enjoy as we tackle each and every Mega Man X game. Also, I understand you guys are asking for Pokemon Generation 2, but bear in mind that's in the process. Just trust it. Mega Man X's debut is interesting to note because despite the success of the original Mega Man series, things were starting to be a little thin on the ice with the Blue Bomber, as the NES was starting to lack the quality that Capcom needed for the franchise, especially as they saw the arrival of the Super Nintendo 2 years prior to Mega Man X's release. Keeping the 16-bit graphics in mind, the team behind the original series came back, with Keiji Inafune being the ringleader once again in terms of presenting a bigger, badder, and simply more robust Mega Man title than ever before. Now, of course, this didn't mean that Mega Man would just fizzle out of existence in favor of this more upgraded design, since later in 1995 he would arrive for his 7th installment for the SNES. It's just that for this upcoming title, Inafune really wanted to make a few changes to what was already previously established. The formula was still there, beating 8 Robot Masters and dealing with the big bad of the series. It was just that the direction is something to take note of when comparing the original Mega Man games with Mega Man X here. From a character design standpoint, Inafune would be in charge like he was with the original games, but he by no means was the one who gave life to the Mega Man X design that we know and love today. In reality, he wanted the protagonist of Mega Man X to be more mature, and instead of using blue as its color tone, red was more of what Inafune wanted this time around. This ultimately ended up being the concept art for Zero, X's best friend throughout all 8 games, and eventually would get a spin-off series of his own for the GBA by the name of Mega Man Zero, a title that I'm sure we eventually will get to in the near future. X's design was done by Inafune's protege Hayato Kaji, and he wanted to mainly pay homage to the original Blue Bomber in terms of design. As the younger brother to the original Mega Man, if we're talking canon-wise, Mega Man X has a more mature and older look of the original by keeping roughly the same concepts, while also fleshing things out a bit more by adding new textural features. I mean, they basically gave X these weird hexagonal booth plates, as well as Zero with some green pair of titties, so yeah, I think edgy is surely the theme of what X provided here from a design standpoint. Though I will say that by looking back at the concept art of Mega Man X, I can't help but really appreciate the little subtleties they did on X's design, booth plates or not, because at the end of the day, X's design still remains as something iconic, and not just from a Mega Man standpoint, but from a mere Capcom standpoint, truly the definition of peak design as we see throughout the course of the franchise. Now, with a formula that worked well during the NES era, and now being a part of Nintendo's biggest powerhouse at the time, the Super Nintendo, Mega Man X here debuted in December of 1993 worldwide and with massive success, giving us so many sequels to boot and experience, which we'll get down to as we further get along with the Mega Man X timeline here, but for now, Ladies and gentlemen, viewers new and old, anybody that somehow stumbled upon this video, perhaps because you love the Mega Man X series, buckle up because it's time to talk about one of my favorite childhood memories of all time, which is Mega Man X for the SNES. Mega Man X takes place in the year 21XX, being the indirect sequel of sorts to the Mega Man original series, given that Dr. Light, before his passing, created Mega Man X, one of his final projects said to have unlimited potential, and before the world could even understand X's machinations, he decided to seal him away in hopes that one day someone would continue on with his research. Because of this, and about a few decades later, Dr. Kane finds the sealed X and awakens him to find out that his inner makings is so incredibly advanced that for the benefit of the world, he created a new generation of robots based off of X known as Reploids, a more humanoid-based robot that is said to have both the emotions and free will of that of a regular human being. Now, would that mean that Mega Man Original did not have free will at all during the course of his 11-game run? Ask Dr. Light that question. Oh wait, he's dead. Speaking of that, where's Mega Man Original and the rest of the gang here? Like, there's no Proto Man, there's no Otto, there's no Roll, none of those guys. It's like after the events of Mega Man X, they're just gone with the wind. Holy man, this is really a mature Mega Man game. However, despite years of human and Reploid cooperation, because of their ability of free will, over time some ended up becoming Maverick, the series' way of describing them as the bad guys who wreak havoc and cause mayhem wherever they go, and they have been on the rise to crime ever since with no real proper explanation other than yes. In order to counteract the threats of the Mavericks, the formation of the Maverick Hunters began, with X as a part of their ranks as a B-class hunter, working alongside his best friend Zero to take out the Mavericks and preserve the peace on Earth against the forces of Sigma, the bald-headed main antagonist that keeps working his way back to X and the gang in every installment since then. And that's about it. That's the best way I can describe the Mega Man X plotline for the SNES release, that is. There is the PSP remake known as Maverick Hunter X, which not only recreated the original Mega Man X game in 3D, but it also had an OVA that dealt with X and Zero's Maverick Hunter missions a whole lot better, as well as their relationship as friends, which was something that I cannot lie was kinda imposed on us with zero elaboration in the SNES original. It also gave us a backstory to Sigma and two others, Storm Eagle and Chill Penguin, who were all Maverick Hunters before becoming Mavericks themselves, thanks to Sigma basically saying, screw the human race and let us Reploids take charge instead, as Reploids, according to Sigma, were deemed the better alternative to rule the world. You know, the whole Darwinist-based villain spiel that happens that isn't surprising to say the least, considering this is a game that has robots with the ability to think for themselves, so clearly one was gonna go rogue in this manner. To kind of go back to when I said that Mega Man X as a game is a more mature and edgier based Mega Man game, I actually wasn't kidding, because you can tell by the synopsises, and compared to the Mega Man original series, there are two completely different beasts in terms of their storylines. Like, Mega Man original, I am sure, did not have to contemplate on war, or even if there was a point in fighting during the course of his time as the Blue Bomber. Hell, besides Mega Man 7, you didn't even have to enter a highway that was blown to bits with enemies running amok. Man, talk about being completely apocalyptic here. Gameplay-wise, Mega Man X feels and plays much like the original series, so it doesn't deviate too much from the standards that the original established, since this was a game that was catered to both new and older fans of the series. However, thanks to the SNES controls, you now have more buttons to press as you run, jump, and make your way through the end of each stage, as well as adding new gimmicks and gameplay mechanics to boot, such as the dash mechanic, where instead of the slide mechanic from the original series, X here has a boost in speed by dashing, allowing him to gain fast momentum and platforming traversal. Pair it with a jump button and you end up gaining additional airtime and can help avoid enemies that often are a hindrance in your fast-paced platformer, and can just get through stages and hazards faster if you just time it right. Adds this sense of dire need to complete the stage as fast as possible, while also utilizing that extra animation for more pizzazz. After all, this is a game for the SNES, and they really wanted to utilize that 16-bit graphics to the fullest potential. Throughout the course of your Mega Man X adventure, you also encounter these Dr. Light capsules, where if X ever jumps into one, he obtains what is an armor part, which is basically if you just thrown in the concept of Mega Man 6's rush armor, but make it more permanent base. Collect 4 parts of this armor and you gain faster mobility, added defense and power, and just a general look overall that makes Mega Man original pale in comparison when X is seen in all his shiny white armor glory. Which, as a sidebar here, as we get down to the series, I like how the armor parts is kind of like this way of demonstrating the ultimate potential that X has compared to any other Reploid we see throughout the series itself. Because, I kid you not, there is no other Reploid out there that is able to literally take off armor parts as if it's a pair of clothing. Now, these armor parts are not required to use, as you can just ignore them altogether and just play as X normally as you would play the original games, and I think that was the intention with this series. Add these new features for players to use to their fullest capacity, but if you're not in the mood to use them, then by all means skip them for that added challenge and nostalgia. Sure, it can make the game a little bit harder, but not by much if you played the original series prior. However, since I never played the originals besides Mega Man 10 and 11, I prefer to use the armor parts as well as get the heart tanks, the game's way of increasing X's health bar, as well as adding exploration and backtracking to stages you've once completed. Yeah, unlike the originals, X's health bar is abysmally small in the beginning and increases the more you find these heart tanks throughout, making you go from a level 1 weakling to now a level 50 Reploid boss that can tank hits from whatever animal this is supposed to be. Like seriously, what's a Coanger? So apparently it's some kind of beetle. The more you know. Lastly, there are these E-tanks, short for energy tanks that can replenish X's health bar if you're taking too much damage against a boss or a stage. There are only 4 in this game, each one scattered in 4 of the 8 stages, and they are something that unless you know how to cheese this game is boss encounters and Sigma, it's best to just keep them around in the event that you're getting your ass beat by Storm Eagle for the 4th time. Go away, you stupid purple robot bird. The boss encounters and the stages in each of them are something that I should stress when compared to the original series, as it feels more serious and darker despite the color palette the game has due to being on the SNES. Whether you're infiltrating a cold military base or an energy plant, even an underground mine and forest base, Mega Man X deals a lot with the mature elements that I think Mega Man Original didn't tap fully into with the NES, and now here with a much powerful hardware, it helps make the identity of the X series a whole lot more unique and especially dynamic, as whenever you beat certain Mavericks first, stages change in aesthetics. For example, beat Chill Penguin before Flame Mammoth and the factory base becomes its frosty robotic lair, and if you beat Spark Mandrill and re-enter his stage, the first hazards you encounter are gone, and while this seems subtle, this actually adds more platforming to explore, and I really appreciate these subtleties. And because of the 16-bit sprite work that the SNES provided, it feels like such a pleasure to look at and dash your way across every single time, and it also helps with the sound quality the game has too, donning a more rock-based music score, which honestly makes sense since the whole basis of Mega Man to begin with was rock and roll. It makes the mature elements fit in nicely, especially when you deal with the 8 Mavericks themselves. In fact, that's the one piece of music that I like the most about this game and the rest of the X series, and that's the boss music, because they really knew how to set the tone right in terms of dealing with the big bad that's just waiting for you at the end of each stage. Hell, the stage music too, as they present the atmosphere of the X series, my favorite being Armored Armadillos with how it begins. Hell, even the password music is a delight to listen to. Seriously, I can spend my time here and not get bored at all. Plus, look how cute the Mets look here. No, not those Mets, these Mets. Okay, you got it? Good. In terms of the Mavericks here, they are all unique in their own way and hone in on the animal they represent. Chill Penguin stays true to the penguin side of things by using a frosty breath to freeze you and slide across the stage. Storm Eagle, the one I mentioned not too long ago, breezes through the air and strikes at you in multiple directions while also somehow puking mini eagles to peck at you, and Large Octopus as well. Well, he's an octopus that somehow shoots homing missiles at you, and you kinda get the gist here. Each one has their own gimmick, and that's about it really, since again, they basically function the same in terms of level completion and progression as would the many men you face in Mega Man Original. Well, many men and one woman in Mega Man 9, because honestly, who can really forget about Splash Woman? Of course, like the original games, you do get to cheese them by using the special weapon they are weak to, but if you really want that added challenge, by all means you can use your regular lemon shooter called a blaster and just fight them that way. For me personally, I just enjoy using the dash mechanic to avoid the gimmick each boss has while throwing a good charge shot here and there, or just simply use my special weapon entirely, since depending on the boss, they can be an utter pain in the ass. I mean, take a good look at Armored Armadillo, as if you don't have Spark Mandrill's weapon, he can repel the blast you throw in them, which creates a small hitbox, and that's pretty annoying. But not annoying that it makes you want to quit the game, since you can always find another Maverick if you die here, and plus, it just feels so rewarding to see this robot armadillo get butt naked by throwing a thunderbolt at it. Oh hey look, I got an achievement for it. Now, the special weapons, aside from possibly 4 of them, were not really used much aside of boss encounters. Again, I can't speak much about the original games and their utilization of the special weapons here, but here with Mega Man X, they add diversity, but they're not something I would use as a preference, unless I have to go get an E-Tank or a Heart Tank, or in some very rare cases where I would need them for platforming. For example, Storm Eagles, I would use it for AoE range, Flame Mammoths just to get a move on with things, and Launch Octopuses, homing missiles just for tight platforming, especially when you're reaching to the front of Sigma's fortress in the final 4 stages, because my god, it gets infuriating real quick. Hell, you can even use the homing missiles from Launch Octopus achieves at Vile during the final stretch of the game, which, realizing this now that we are this far into the video, I didn't even go over the second main antagonist you face throughout the game, who I will say is clearly a ripoff of Boba Fett from Star Wars. There's no denying that. I mean, even Sigma here has a freaking lightsaber, so clearly Capcom was either binge watching Star Wars or George Lucas secretly worked on the game, because you can't just deny the design choice they went with here. Though knockoff Boba Fett doesn't get much screen time in this game, he easily is my favorite of the Maverick rogue gallery that X faces throughout the games. Purple is his preferred color, at least in this game, and having a freaking machine gun and shoulder to pack the heat, I'm telling you, this Maverick clearly means business, and I like how in the PSP remake he gets more of a personality and his own story mode as well. Sure, he still gets blown to bits by X after Zero sacrifices himself, but I like how in the PSP remake, they still made sure that he does not give any crap at all and does whatever he wants, period. Also, I did not forget about Zero here, since he is like the older brother to X, always there to lend a hand and help him whenever he needs to, especially towards the end of the game where when you get beat up by Vile, Zero decides to play the sacrifice card by blowing himself up just so you can get ready for a rematch with Vile and progress through Sigma's fortress. Also, as an added bonus to this, if you decide to not get the arm part in Flame Mammoth stage, he decides to give it to you as a means to pay him tribute as you blast your way against a spider, 2 walls with eyeballs, the 8 Mavericks again as you would in the classic games, and of course Sigma himself, the real challenge of this game that requires a lot of intense focus and platforming skills just to get through to him. Or just use a Hadouken to easily win the fight.
Wait, the Hadouken?
Yeah, the Hadouken, which is a special Capcom Easter egg in this game that you can get as a special ability for X to use. Have X at full health and do the same input of the move as you would in the Street Fighter games, and boom, you can now officially one-shot any boss you face, which is just ridiculous. And I only used it towards the end against Sigma because, well, it's Sigma, why not? Plus, love having the capsule you get the move from. Dr. Light clearly had some cosplay event to get to, as he's seen dressed in Ryu's clothes just to give you the ability with almost zero elaboration. He just tells you to hop in the capsule, don't ask any questions, and enjoy using the Hadouken. After beating up Hot Topic Buzz Lightyear with your newly OP weapon, you then get greeted to his second phase being his giant head attached to a wolf with claws that honestly don't do much compared to the first phase, but please pay attention to the placement of the lightning and the hands that are ready to play the dirtiest game of catch in the process. But with a final shot to the bald spot and a quick escape of the exploding base, X now looks back at the rubble that stands before him at the edge of a cliff, pondering this is now the fate he has to bear moving forward in order to seek out peace between humans and Reploids, setting the stage for 7 more games and plenty of Mavericks for X to dismantle and fight, thus officially ending Mega Man X for the SNES. And you know, when I first saw this as a kid when my uncle played it on the Mega Man X collection, and seeing this on my screen all those many years later, I am very glad to have given this game the time and dedication it deserves, as well as pay attention to the things that Inafune did for this new generation of Mega Man. Like I've said, and I'll most likely stress this as we continue on with the X series, this is how I grew up with Mega Man and how I got to know this side of Capcom before diving to the Devil May Cry's and the Resident Evils all those years later. To me, Mega Man X was Capcom and everything else was just secondary, which I mean in a sense if we're talking on a technicality it is timeline wise, but my tiny brain back then just didn't process that yet. This was my introduction to the Blue Bomber and all the spin-offs that came after the X series, and I still feel this way even today. As I played through the entirety of this game, I just couldn't help but grin and enjoy my time, be it on the Nintendo Switch or back on the PS4 when the Legacy Collection released. And I'm happy to say that the Legacy Collection so far is doing a good job at ensuring what the classic games were like while adding a fresh coat of paint on it so that newer fans of the series can enjoy without tearing their wallets a new one. The fast-paced elements when compared to the originals, the rock and roll soundtrack of each stage and encounter, to the brutal times where I had to climb my way back to Sigma while ensuring my E tanks are filled up and ready to go in the event that I needed them after beating up his dog for the 50th time with a Hadouken. It was a thrill that I don't think any other game gave me since I was introduced to the X series, if I'm being completely honest here. Like I've said, this game does so many things right and is easily my favorite of the Mega Man X games, with X4 and X8 being up there as well. Sure, I am aware of the flaws this game has, but I honestly don't care because this was the experience that I genuinely appreciate having no matter how old I get, and I do wish someday to play this on original hardware as intended. But hey, I at least have the Legacy Collection on the Switch, so I can literally take the nostalgic feel wherever I go next, because to me, this is a perfect Mega Man game that holds true to this very day with its graphics, sound design, music, quality, and of course, the gameplay itself. In case I didn't stress this enough, folks, I absolutely love the Mega Man X franchise. I absolutely love the childhood memories that I've experienced with the X series, starting with Mega Man X here, so definitely worth a try. I highly recommend you either get the PSP remake or just the Legacy Collection, since that is mostly out there nowadays, so definitely get one of those. And the next time we do dive into the Mega Man X series, it'll be with Mega Man X2. Obviously, there was going to be sequels into the boots, as I mentioned earlier, and Mega Man X2 is one of them. So next time we dive into that, it'll be there. So thank you guys so much for all the support. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed. And for those that have been here for a very, very long time, you guys know how I like to end the usual. So thank you guys so much for all the support. Keep being awesome, keep spreading love and kindness into the world, keep improving yourselves each and every day by 1%, and know that I love you guys forever and always to 120, and I can't wait to see you all next time. Remember guys, stay freaking sexy, stay safe out there, and we'll take care.